Hey everyone, and welcome to Forest to Thought. My name is Eric Thorne. In today's video, I want to talk about why I choose to travel and the secret reason what I'm hoping to discover through my slow travel journey. Okay, so first of all, I engage in slow travel, which means traveling, but also getting the time to understand and learn the language and the culture of the country which I visit. Which means that, for example, at the moment, I'm spending some time in Barcelona to really get the vibe, get to know the people, and to understand how people think and talk and understand and engage with one another in this part of the world. Now, what set me off on this journey was personal growth, right? So it was a realization that I'd spent 7 years in the Netherlands and I'd gotten quite comfortable. I was comfortable in Sweden before I left to Sweden to the Netherlands, and I was comfortable in the Netherlands. I'd learned the language, I'd gotten used to the people, I'd gotten used to how people think, and I realized how thought-provoking the Dutch lifestyle was, how Dutch people talk, how Dutch people are, how they think, how they communicate. All these things were new to me when I came to the country, and they changed my world. They changed how I, look at conflicts and communication and effective communication and what it's all about. For example, their honest, direct style of communication. For me, it was a revolutionary way of talking with other people and a very different way of thinking and engaging and understanding the world. And I thought to myself, maybe other cultures have other things to teach me, right? Maybe I can learn something from the Spanish culture. Maybe I can learn something from Italians. Maybe I can learn something from Russians. Maybe I can learn something from Americans. And perhaps I can learn something from Asian culture and experience. Another thing that prompted this desire was a realization of ignorance, right? A realization that I was ignorant about a lot of these places and people. I hear so much on the news about China this, and Japanese people that, and Korean people that, and Vietnamese people that, And often I realize that most of these arguments and news articles are based on very shallow, superficial truths, right? And while they try to explain it to us and do their best job based on the limited resources these journalists have, the truth is they don't really know or understand these things. And nothing can teach you as well as experience, right? And here I wanted to take a more hands-on truth experience for myself, what it is, and to make up my own opinion about what it is. And here, there are future goals mapped in here, right? Because the truth is, one day I'd like to get involved in politics again, but especially global politics, polarization, culture wars, and those matters, right? Because I want to be a person that sees the bigger picture. I feel nobody understands the bigger picture anymore. Everyone's focused on their own tribe, their own group, their own subculture, and nobody thinks and tries to understand how other people see things and experience things and why they made the decisions they did. And here I tend to operate with the belief that everyone has a rational reason for everything that they do, and we just don't know it yet. If we think people are being stupid or irrational, it's because we don't understand how these people think. And if we understood how they would think, we would be able to formulate solutions so to foster a culture of compromise and harmony and balance between these different groups. So I have a desire to grow as a person, to become a person that's more versatile and has a more nuanced and more big picture approach to the world and people. And of course, there are psychological motives in that too. It's a realization that, I speak about psychology, I speak about personality types, but often a key component of healthy and scientific personality psychology is being able to formulate and create a personality test or a model which is true for every culture in every part of the world. A common critique against MBTI, against the 16 personalities, and even against the Big Five is that it's not universally applicable, which means that when you try to apply the Big Five in other parts of the world, it might not perform as well, because in those cultures, the approach and the way people think about and conceive of these matters is so culturally different that people just don't think or act or feel that way, right? And I realized that this is a really big problem because context is everything. Personality needs to be compared against context in every situation, because if the paradigms of culture and how we look at cultural norms and values is different, if what the community has agreed upon is a different form of social script, a different form of organization, a different form of democracy, a different form of, cultural engagement and practice, often people will look at the same issue in a completely polarized way. It's said that, for example, the Asian cultures often don't practice dichotomous thinking, which means they don't necessarily think of the world as divided into two opposites, right? So while in the West, it's very common to apply dichotomies to everything, the left versus the right, us versus them, this versus that, fire versus ice, cold versus warm, In Asia, people don't really apply this way of thinking about matters, and that produces a very different result and a very different way of understanding the world. Similarly, different languages follow different grammar practices and norms, and you would be surprised if you realized how differently you think in different languages, and how different languages, different words, different ways of expressions allow you to look at an issue in a completely different way. Here, knowing languages, for example, can help you ward off false memories, for example. People who only speak one language tend to have very false memories because you only see things from that one perspective. And a lot of the time, when you know multiple languages and you recite the scenario in multiple languages, what's going to end up happening is you're going to notice errors and misconceptions and issues. You're going to be like, wait a second, that can't be true. If that's how I remember it in this language, and if that's how I remember it in that language, then what really happened, right? So often it's like a safeguard, a way to make sure that you have holistic perspective to ward off errors, fake news, false beliefs, and things like that, right? It's all about fighting stereotypes. It's making sure that you're not succumbing to ignorance. It's not succumbing to, stereotypical views, shallow, lazy thinking about other people. It's about making sure that you really understand. And so no matter if somebody comes to me and wants to be typed from Australia, Japan, or Sweden, or the US, I need to make sure that, I can give them a fair view, and I can make sure that I try to at least have some base understanding of their culture, with the true realization that nobody can know everything. I couldn't possibly hope to know every culture, every language, every quirk, every dialect, every, subdichotomy or way of looking at things, right? The truth is, I can not know everything, but I can at least try to know a little bit more than what I do today. So yeah, that's my hope with my travels, and the secret reason why I choose to make this journey lately. And yeah, it's going to be very stressful and very challenging for me because I don't always like changing my routines, and I like having a healthy balance and comfort, and I miss my friends and, things like that, right? So it's not always easy, but it's going to be worth it. And it's something that I realized I had to do and I've thought about for a very long time. So it's about time.